In this video, I'm going to discuss the prompt option of the Set Key tool. So far as we've animated, we've just used the S key, which is a hotkey for the Set Key tool, but with its default settings, it'll place a keyframe where we happen to be on the timeline. So if you left your time slider at frame 10 and you press S, that's where the key will be placed, right there at frame 10. However, you can have it put up a prompt window instead, and therefore you can enter your own values. In fact, you can enter more than one keyframe value. Let's give it a try. First thing we need to do is go up to Animate, Set Key, and go to the option box, Change the Default. By default, it's set the current time. However, to get the prompt option, you just have to click the Prompt Radio button. So Prompt will give you that special window. Now when I hit Set Key, that window comes up. I'm not ready to animate, so I'll just cancel for now. But then we'll start using the hotkey to get that window. To demonstrate this technique of animating, I have a pendulum here. It's just a single surface, polygon surface, with a pivot point up here at the very top. Now to animate a pendulum, it'd be great to have it rock back and forth, but hit the same position on each side over and over and over. So what you can do is use Set Key Prompt to enter a whole bunch of keyframes all at once. So for example, let's say I want the pendulum to start here at frame 1. And maybe it takes 5 frames to swing to the other side. So 5 frames across the other side, and then 5 frames back to this side. Now that I'm on frame 1, with the pendulum in this position, is go ahead and hit the S key on my keyboard. S key now brings up the prompt window. Then enter a number of frame numbers where I want the keyframes to be laid down. I can have more than one number here, so I can enter 1 for the first keyframe, enter a space by pressing the space bar, then enter 10, space bar, 20, space bar, 30, space bar, 40, space bar, 50, space bar, 60. What that means is I'll get a keyframe at 1, at 10, at 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. So this current position, current rotation, current scale of the pendulum will be stored in all these keyframes all at once. That's the great thing about this window. If you do want to enter more than one frame number, you can get a whole bunch of keyframes all at once. Now that I've entered these numbers, I can click OK, and we'll have those keyframes drop down instantaneously. I'm going to adjust my timeline range here to make sure it's 60 frames long. So now my animation's 1 to 60. I can see where it dropped the keyframes down at 1, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Now what I can do is go and get the other position on the opposite side. So let's say on frame 5, I want it to be over here. I can use Set Key Prompt once again, press the S key, and this time I'm going to enter 5, space, 15, space, 25, space, 35, space, 45, space, 55. So basically dropping down another set of keyframes in between the other ones. So it'll be 5, 15, 25, etc. So now I can hit OK, and now I have that set of keyframes. So right there with very few steps, I've given myself a pendulum motion. So now if I play it back, it's going to swing back and forth, and each trip from one side to the other takes 5 frames. So Set Key Prompt has several advantages. One, when you get this window up, after you press the S key, you can enter 1 or more keyframes. Now you can enter 1 if you want to. 1 keyframe is fine. Or you can enter numbers for a whole bunch of keyframes. When I say numbers, you're entering the frame number where you want that keyframe to be laid down. So you can enter 1 or more of those, and then click OK. Another advantage is this window does not care where you are on the timeline. It doesn't matter if you're on frame 20 or frame 30 or frame 55. When you enter numbers here, that's where you get the keyframes and nowhere else. You don't have to be at any particular place in your timeline. Now you do have to have the correct position for your object. If I do want to set a keyframe with the pendulum in this particular position, well, it has to be in that position. So when I enter frame numbers here in the Set Key Prompt, those values from the channel box will be stored in those keyframes. You have to be aware of the correct position, correct rotation, correct scale at that moment, but it doesn't matter what frame you're currently at on the timeline. So it takes a little getting used to, but it's worth trying. And again, if you want to go to the prompt mode, go up to Animate, Set Key, Option box, and change it to Prompt.